Good morning. This is Kelley Hobart from Alpaca Direct, and it's so nice to be back this week. This last week, I took the week off to spend time with my granddaughter, and we were out at the lake, and we had a great time. So I was trying to help her learn how to ride her bike, and we were running all over the beach. I was chasing her in the water, had a great time.
Brandon had a birthday?
Yes, and my son turned 30 years old. Oh my goodness. Well, they're always my kids. I always call them my kids, even though they're grown adults. They're my babies. So I hope all of you are doing well. I know it's super hot today. We went from, let's see, in less than a week and a half, we went from around the 60s, right, Jim? And all the way up over 100. So I think God is testing our ability to be able to adjust and to adapt. So, and I hear that there might be rolling power outages today because of the excessive use of the air conditioners out there, I believe. So today I thought I would talk about how to embellish our knit and crochet projects with cute little simple techniques that you can use in embroidery to make our projects look beautiful. Don't forget to let us know where you're from. And if you post comments in the comment section, you get entered. Every week we have a prize. And for this week, I was thinking that I would do the comfort sock because it has absolutely no wool in it. And I have the bright, crazy and wild colorway or the more subdued colorway. And so I was thinking that one of our customers would enjoy making socks out of a yarn that's not going to heat you up too much. A nice summertime fingering weight yarn. So all you have to do to enter to win is you post comments in the comment section. Maybe you let us know what you're working on. If you have a pattern or a project that you absolutely love, don't forget to put the name in there and the name of the designer, and we can take a look at that because we love learning from each other, right? Right. It's totally cool. So, and I think that last week's prize, our staff was so diligent and was working so hard. I think it already went out in the mail, and it was for some of this lovely Encore yarn. And so that's awesome. Wonderful. I love Encore. It's a great workhorse yarn. I think that once the world comes to an end, yarns like Encore is still going to be around, going strong because they're machine washable and so awesome. So I wanted to show you a little bit. Here's my little practice board. If any of you are working on your embroidery techniques, making a little swatch or a bigger swatch like this, where you can practice that French knot, you can practice the daisy stitch or the straight stitch, and I'll let you know what I learned about mine. I'm going to come around here, Jim, and sit down now so we can take a look at this. And I have my yarn, you'll see, is already threaded onto tapestry needles for each one so that I could cut down on time that it would take to do the actual little swatch for you so we could look at it together. So this first one, you can see I'm using different white yarn. All I did is doubled the yarn. So when you're embellishing, you don't necessarily have to buy new yarn. You can use yarn out of your stash and make it look quite lovely. So this technique on the top here is called the straight stitch. And if you look here, you have a center that you're going into. So let me go ahead and go. This is it's like a starburst, or it can kind of look like a flower depending on how far you space your little leaves or straight stitches apart. So the first thing I did is doubled my yarn, and then I have them. I'm going to go from behind. And what I do is I like to work on a regular stitch like this. So the smiles are up. So the top of our stitch is going up, and I don't usually go into the ones that are going down. That way I can keep track of what I'm doing, and I'm always doing the same thing. So I'm going to come from the back into the center of a stitch. And I tried, when I first did this, I thought, well, maybe I'll do my anchor points. I'll do one loop here, one loop here, and one loop here. But when I did that, the center looked wonky. And so I don't recommend that. What I found that worked better is doing, working your way, do this one, this one, this one, this one, and this one. And the trick to make it look really good is if you count bars, you go 1, 2, 3, 4. Say I'm going to go 4 bars, okay? And then you got to pay attention to your tension. You want it to be not too tight. And then in the back here, I want to make sure that when I'm going back in, I'm not splitting this yarn right here. I'm kind of keeping that out of the way. And it will make your center look tidy. So then what I want to do, since this is 1 stitch, 2 stitch, 3 stitches, I'm going to go 3 stitches over, and then I will go 1, 2 bars up. We'll see what that looks like. And if for some reason that doesn't work for you, you can just easily take it out. So you could say, no, I don't want to do 2 stitches over. I'm just going to do 1 stitch over and go 2 stitches up. So you can decide. What the lovely thing about making these little embellishments is that you can take it out and try it again if you don't like what you're seeing. Just make sure that when you're doing it, you're not making it too tight or too loose. You want it just right. Yeah. And I loved being able to practice with this. I think I'm going to keep this for future reference. If I need to work on a project, I can just go ahead and practice on this one. So then you see I'm in this stitch right here. And then I need to decide, do I go 2, 3 out? That looks pretty good. See how nice it looks? But when I'm working in the center, I'm trying to not split any yarns, not go into that tail. I'm just going straight into that center again. And that's what makes that, that center look so tidy. I just love it. So we'll go down here and then we have 1 more. And we're going to go back into our center again. And you can see that it pays to leave yourself plenty of working yarn when you're doing these projects, because you don't want to have to attach more yarn to it as you're going along. So on this top one, I did 4 bars. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then I would be done. See? And then you can just wiggle it and adjust it and make it look the way you want it to. And if I wanted to make a full starburst, I would do the same thing over here. Do this other half, these 3, over on this side, and it could make one that looks like that. So now let's take a look on the back. I wanted to show you. On here, I did a couple different ways of weaving in my ends. Let me just take this off. Oop. My scissor needs to be sharpened a little. So if you see right here, I just tied a knot. And what you can do to do that is you would take your strand of, you know how I have my yarn doubled. Well, you just thread one of those ends onto a tapestry needle, and what you want to do is just bring it through, one strand of it through that side, and then you don't have your strands right next to each other anymore. You have one block through. So if I try to tie a knot, I would do this, and you have to be careful because you don't want to tie it too tight and pull everything on the other side too tight. So, and you can even do it a 3rd time. And you see on the back here. So that is one way to weave in, to get rid of those ends. And it helps to sharpen your scissors. And then another way that you could do this is you could just take these little ends and you would weave them in through there. So my tail on this one is just a little tiny bit short. I usually like a little tiny bit longer tail. Now, when you're weaving in the ends and you're using these different color yarn, you have to be careful so that you don't get it showing through your work. You don't want it showing through the other side, you know what I mean? And then I would just take this and weave it back in the other direction. They say to do an M or a W, but I'm just saying more than one direction at least. And you'll see me, I'm splitting the yarn on purpose so that I can get it woven in between those strands and have it show through the top as little as possible. So let's look and see what this looks like on the other side. And then I don't cut it as short as I need to until I block a project. And then you can see it doesn't show through. So this one right here, you see how I wove in all those ends? Only if you stretch it a lot. Do you see how on the right-hand side it shows through? And it's kind of personal preference. Another thing that I thought was kind of cool that I did right here on this one was, remember how we kind of split the strands and we add a new ball of yarn by taking the strand and weaving it in between the other strand? So that's what I did with this one. And then I would just cut these off. It's woven in right into the strands of the yarn, and you can't see that one at all. It doesn't show through at all. So I thought that if you have a wool yarn, that is a great way to go, because then this kind of shows through where this you can't see at all. So that's kind of cool. I do like that. Now, let's take a look at some of these different techniques here. So I have, where is my, oh, right, okay. I'm looking for my next yarn here. Okay, so on this one is called the Lazy Daisy stitch. And basically what you do, you can use it to make a flower. And again, you figure out where you want the center of your flower to be. So you would come up through leaving a tail long enough to weave in. Remember, this actual daisy stitch requires a fair amount of yarn. So don't leave so much tail that you can't complete the actual stitch before you run out of yarn. So all you do is you come back into here where you were, and then I'm going to again go up 4 bars, and you just let this come around here. And that makes your first petal. If you need to adjust it, just go ahead and adjust it however you want to. Make sure that when you go to have the petal go through, that this strand of yarn is going to hold it in place. You want to go right back in where you came from. And I'll show you on my sample where I purposefully went over one strand, and it leaves a kind of a funny, see how clean and neat that looks? Now look at this one. Do you see right here how this one, I went over 1 bar, and it's a long loop. This one too, a long loop. You don't want to do that. You want to go right in where you came out of. And right here is a sample where I actually pulled it tighter. So you can see if you pull it too tight, it doesn't look as pretty. So keeping it nice and loose is going to be really good. And then another thing, and don't pull it all the way through like that. And then when you go to make your next loop, always making sure that you keep this center, the strands, don't split the strands when you come back in from behind. Do kind of like we did before with the top sample that you and I just worked up here, the straight stitch. Go in and try not to split any yarns and keep that nice and clean in there. And then make sure that when you're doing your little daisy, that you're not catching other things from other areas, because that could be not very attractive as well. So again, making your loop, coming back into here, deciding I'm going to probably go there. So is that cool? And then making sure that you go right back down into that spot that you were in. and keeping everything loose and relaxed. And just, if you need to move things around, do that. That's perfect. And then again, going back in here, making sure you're not attaching yourself onto something you don't want to. And another loop. Go right back into there. And then you can come back up wherever you think you see fit. Or you can actually go, I'll probably go right there. And you can see you can make all different kinds of flowers on your project just by using this simple technique. And be patient with yourself, adjust as necessary. Don't make it a speed contest, because if you take your time and use this little board like I have and practice, boy, you can get some really cute, get it turning out really nice. See? So you can see I'm just working my way around, and if I got all the way around to this side, I would have a really nice little flower to put on my project. So it's really fun. It's definitely worth trying. And using a board like a flat project sample that you can practice your projects before you actually go to your knitting is fantastic. It's a great idea. So now I'm going to show you the French knot. So you come up from behind, and I have a couple French knots right here. These are the French knots for you. So you come up from behind, and then you wrap the yarn. They say twice, but I usually like to use 3 times. And then what I like to do with that oops, try that again. You got to hold it with your thumb. I need to hold it with my left thumb, and then it'll make it work beautifully. So I would hold these strands right here with my left thumb without pulling it through. And then you have a French knot. Is that cool? And practice makes perfect on this. So the more you practice it, the better you get on the French knots. Now, this was a new one for me. Look at this little right here. This is using the Lazy Daisy stitch, but what you're doing, oops, instead, when you're not catching, let me just cut that off. I trapped some yarn on the back here, so I'm just going to cut that off. There you go. So I can show you the next one. All right. So on this one, all you do is you make your loops, right? You go straight into here. You come out wherever you want. You decide that you want. And I thought this would make, like if you're doing tree leaves or branches or whatever, this makes a great branch. And I'm doing it double so that you can see it, but you can do it single and make it really thin and wavy around your flowers and give the flowers actual stems. So let me show you that one more time. I'm going to try and unwind this a little. So I'm going to go in where I came out of. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go up. Isn't that cool? That's so cool. And you just pull it as tight as you want to. And when you're ready to end it, you would just go in where you came out of. And then it just ends it. Isn't that cool? I thought that made great branches. So there's all kinds of things that you can do when you're using embroidery. You can decorate your knitting and your crochet and to have lots of fun with it. So if you have a regular raglan sweater and it's just stockinette stitch and you want to embellish it, this is a great way to do it. You could take time. You could even draw out what you want your picture to look like and then practice it on one of these little boards and then go back and do it on your project. See? So make a little sample board where you can practice your skills, get really good at them, and then put it on your sweaters. Or it would be so cute on baby sweaters if you could do like little ducks or, you know, little flowers with vines, or even just the little starbursts were so cute. So I hope this helped you learn how to do a little bit of those, or at least gave you an idea of what you can do with embroidery with your knit and crochet. And so don't forget to vote on the prize for this week, which is the Wild and Crazy colors and then the Subdued colors by this Baracco Comfort sock, which is a non-wool sock yarn that is fantastic for this heat wave that we're having. So
who's the winner?
Yes, and in this last week, let's see who our winner was. It already went out in the mail, but let's see. It is Neela Jordan O'Neill. Congratulations, you won this lovely Encore yarn, and you could do a lot. This has really good yardage on it, so you might be able to do a sweater and a pair of booties, or a sweater and a little baby hat maybe, because there's a good amount of yardage on here. So I hope that you all have a great week. And I haven't even decided what I'm working on next week. It'll have to be a surprise. I haven't even gotten that far yet. I'm still trying to recover from the heat.
And vacation.
And vacation, yes. But luckily we got all of our unpacking done and we got the laundry all caught up. Now today I need to go grocery shopping because we're a little slim in the refrigerator on fresh food because we were camping for a week. So I hope you all have a great week, and I will see you next Tuesday.